Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have your cup of coffee with you today. I think today you will need coffee, not just tea, because we're talking about something that often people aren't ready to get into. We're talking about law when it comes to prenuptial agreements, when it comes to writing your will, and then towards the end of the show, we'll even answer some of the questions that you guys asked on our Instagram page. In fact, speaking of Instagram, I hope you're following us there. That's Living With Us, and on Facebook and Twitter too. Now we're at Park Inn by Radisson, as usual, one of our favorite places. And my guest today is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Her name is Mercy Wanza. Hello.
Hi,
and
Shara.
welcome.
Thank you.
I have a bunch of questions because I'm so ready to grill you. So you're also a certified corporate trainer.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And about a year and a half ago, you also started Wakili Mkononi.
Yes.
Can you tell me what Wakili Mkononi is?
So Wakili Mkononi is basically a legal edutainment platform where we try and demystify what legal information really means. We don't have to send people to the Kenya Law Reports. So we have short simulations of video clips where people can watch and say, this is a land issue, this is a divorce matter, and sort of like relate to it and say, yes, this is what I am ailing from, or this is the trouble that I am actually currently going through. And then we also go ahead and connect you to a lawyer, an arbitrator, or a mediator. So we make justice seekers and legal providers, we're sort of like a bridge. So we bring the two together.
Yes. And I know you recently won something. Can you tell us about that? Because I think that's incredible that you came in, third place out of hundreds of entries.
Right, so I'd love to talk about that. So the HEAL, which is the Hague Institute for Innovation of Law, had a Justice Accelerator competition where they wanted to see your creativity and innovation in terms of answering questions to do with law and judging you by your innovation and creativity, and of course your scalability. And we were able to compete. We were given each 4 minutes to pitch the product. There was a bunch of jury members, and we came in third place, and so
out
I think
of 400 entrants.
There were 400 entrances all around different countries, from Nigeria to Sri Lanka to all these places, and we were happy.
Hey, Wakili, and you're still so young and just started it out, so that's incredible.
Yeah.
So really, you do know your stuff. You're the right person to ask.
Right. Thank you.
So let's talk about prenups. First, what's the general feel when it comes to prenups in Kenya?
First of all, not just in Kenya, but in African countries, So people don't want to talk about prenups because they do not want to think about how we're going to end up divorcing. We want to enter into a marriage and believe it's going to work and our property is going to be safe. But that's not really the case most of the times, or some of the times, and people end up losing a lot of money in the process. So people don't want to talk about prenuptial agreements.
Okay, so if you were to break down what a prenup is in just a couple of sentences, what is it?
So a prenup, also known as a premarital agreement, but people call it short for prenup, is basically a legal agreement, and it's a private one between a husband and a wife, in terms of how are they going to distribute their property should the marriage fail, or in case the other spouse dies. So it's basically a legal document to say this is how the financial property is going to be distributed, or
Oh, so it's not just for divorce, it's also if in the case of death?
Absolutely, also in the case of death.
Oh.
So it's basically, should the marriage fail? The marriage could fail either because you died, or the marriage could fail because we didn't agree and it's a divorce. So it's either or.
So what's in a prenuptial agreement? It's literally like a breakdown of the properties and then who's going to get what?
Absolutely. A prenuptial agreement, like I said, it's a private agreement, right? And there's no one way of doing it. It's basically what works for you and your husband, or for me and my husband and the next couple rather. So it's basically saying these are our assets, and this is my asset as the wife, this is your asset as the husband. So we classify them and say we want them to be distributed in this and this other way. Yeah.
And so as part of the prenup, could conversations around maybe whether it's pets or children or things that aren't so clearly valued as worth X amount of shillings. Can things like that also come into play?
That's a very good question. Children are off the bet.
So
Children are
children
not
not-
part of the prenup.
Okay.
This is mostly for financials, your
Okay.
property, physical
Okay.
property, digital property.
Yeah.
So children are off the bet. A child is going to be provided for.
Okay.
Yes.
So who should have a prenup and why?
As long as you are of marriageable age,
Yeah.
you should have a prenup. If you want to have a prenup,
Okay.
as long as you're contemplating marriage, you should have a prenup. Those are the people who are qualified. You cannot have a prenup
Okay.
outside the context of marriage.
yeah.
So why should you have it? It protects you financially. Also, it indemnifies you from debts of either the couple. So if I came with debts or my husband came with debts, then your debts remain as yours. I'm not going to inherit your debts. So it protects us financially, yeah.
Right. Actually, I remember my business law teacher
Right.
saying that prenups are not just black and white. It could also be that,
Yeah.
look, I love you, this is a long haul,
Yes.
but in order for them not to take everything, if they were
Yes.
coming after everything, then let's separate or let's sign a prenup. And that was the
Absolutely.
first time it sounded not just like as a vengeful,
It's not a
devious thing,
vengeful
but like
thing.
a smart business like
Absolutely.
proposition. At which point exactly is a prenup valid, or should one get a prenup? Is it right before marriage? Can you do it after marriage?
Another good question. So a prenup, basically, as you said, pre is before.
Okay.
So a prenup should be entered just before marriage. But let's say, for example, you didn't have time to sign a prenup,
Yeah.
or you wanted to take time in the marriage and see what are the consequences. You can sign a post-nuptial agreement, which is a post-nup.
Oh.
So that too could work.
So in that case,
Yeah.
if say we got married and you were this rich man,
Yes.
and you were like, hey, oh gosh, we just were so confused by the wedding, we didn't sign this prenup, so let's sign the post-nup.
It will
Can
still be
I say
effective.
no?
No, you cannot say no, because if it was an agreement that you would do that,
Yeah.
then that works for you. But you see, the challenge with that is it's your word against mine.
Okay.
So have at least a written document prior that you will be able to sign a post-nup afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's even go back to like who should sign an agreement. There's this notion that it only really matters if one of the people, if not both,
Yeah.
is wildly wealthy,
Right.
like incredibly wealthy.
Right.
So is a prenup only for those who have a lot to secure and to be scared of losing?
Well, to be honest, those are the kind of people that approach this situation where there's an immense balance in the wealth gap. For example, if I'm worth 165 billion and someone came in and is worth 2 million,
Yeah.
then there's a serious imbalance of
Yeah.
wealth. However, it's not a preserve for the wealthy. It could be people who are of just
The same,
humble, the
beginnings.
same. It's simply wanting to be in charge of my financials after we're done. So I walk out with what I came with,
Yeah.
you walk out with what you came with, and
Okay.
we start our own lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, prenups are legal in Kenya, right?
They are very legal in Kenya.
Because I don't know why I remember hearing that they're not valid or they're not recognized in the Kenyan law.
Yeah.
In Kenyan law.
So why you had that, you're actually right.
Okay.
Previously, it wasn't legal, but there was an improvement to the law, and that is in Section 6.3 of the Kenya Matrimonial Property Act. So it simply improved on the prenuptial agreements. They're very valid in Kenya.
Okay. So let's lay out what are the pros and cons
Okay.
of taking a prenup.
So let's
having a
start with the good news. Or
Yeah,
the
let's
bad
start with
news?
the good. the
Okay,
good.
let's start with the good news. Like I said, financially you're protected. So you get to walk out with your 2 million. I get to walk out with how much I came with. Secondly, like I said, the debts. I don't have to inherit your debts, so I don't care with the debts that you incur. Those are yours, and they will be taken care of by your estate. I think the other thing is peace of mind, that no matter what happens, I'm going to be secured with the money that I came with. So those are the pros that come with it.
Okay.
And also the fact that you're able to dictate where you want your money to be allocated afterwards. Because you see some people say, oh, I want my money to be given to charity. Either after I die or if we divorce, then this is how I'd want my money to be disbursed. But coming to the cons of it, the first and foremost, obviously being, if you're going to enter into marriage with a contract, well,
I can't even imagine the kind of conversations you'll have. Like, is that what you think I'm worth?
Right.
Right? Because then you're like, me as the person worth 165 million, like you
Right.
said, I think I'll only give you 5 million, and someone's
And
like,
then it's like,
are you kidding me? Is that what you think? Yeah.
Right, and you see people start assuming this attitude of let me wait and see
Yeah.
what this person is going to do. So there's lack of trust, and that's the biggest con with it. And I understand now why the people would have cold feet going into prenups, because it's like, don't you trust me? Why are we even doing this in the first place?
Yeah.
I think the other con is that you're basically signing away your rights as a spouse to inherit your spouse's property. So it's you're just saying bye to it.
Wow.
And you can easily see, if you divorce, you can see the money being taken off to charity or to another place, and you have no say whatsoever because you signed your rights away.
So if you do not get a prenup,
Yes.
what happens? And I guess that's the case for a lot of Kenyans, especially if it wasn't even legal for a long time.
Right.
So what happens if one doesn't get a prenup, but they go through a divorce?
If you go through a divorce, then the court assumes the normal process of division of especially matrimonial property. Whatever happens is that now the process follows where it's how you had agreed. What goes to the children, what goes to me.
Okay.
So it's just the normal process.
But what if you didn't agree? Like, is it assumed that everything is split in half?
Well, that should be the assumption.
Okay.
Because also if there are children, then there's a certain way of lifestyle that they're adapted to, so that continues.
Yeah.
But you see, with a prenup, it's what goes where. I decide what goes where.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know I asked you when a prenup is written.
Yes.
If we had written one before we got married, and then, say for instance, I'm this like rich billionaire,
Yeah.
and I thought, you know what, I'm only gonna give you like 2% because I'm not really sure where you're going with
Right.
this. But maybe a year into it, 2 years into it, I think, wow, this woman is a keeper.
Yes.
And whatever doubts I had,
Yes.
they no longer exist. Can it be amended, a prenup?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. They can be amended because it's not cast on stone. It's an agreement, remember, and it's a private agreement, and it's what works between the two of you. In fact, not just amended, you can completely do away with it and figure out, you know what, I don't mind.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You can be like, you know what, I don't mind, and go and completely just do away with it. Of course, following the due process of the law, depending also on the state that you are and also under Kenyan law. So the due process will be followed. An agreement can be revoked. It's an agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And worldwide, what would you say the general feeling around a prenup is like? Because I know you talked about Africa and it being like, well, we don't even really want to think about divorce, so let's not. But worldwide, where are prenups like placed? Are they growing in popularity?
I'd say this, especially in the Western countries, they are very much appreciated. So it cuts across religion or whatever. It's simply, prenups are looked at as something that protects each of us. They're accepted worldwide. It's just that in Africa, there's that we don't want to talk about if our marriage is going to fail.
Okay.
It's just the mentality, but I find them very, being acceptable. And the fact that you see our laws making some type of provision and making it legal, then that should tell you, it speaks to that people are now open to prenups. So I feel that there's a general acceptance to prenups. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure you heard about billionaire Jeff Bezos.
Yes.
And how he and his wife are getting a divorce.
Yes.
And he's worth, just a few billions.
Just a little
a
bit,
few.
just a little bit.
And I don't believe that they had a prenup. So what are your thoughts when it comes to a situation like that?
Oh, well, your guess is as good as mine. I say Mackenzie Bezos becomes a wealthy woman.
Yeah.
If the prenuptial agreement was not in place.
Right.
If it was in place, then there's that distribution that according to their wishes. But if there wasn't any such agreement, well, she's gonna be wealthy.
Yeah, she's going to. I mean, she's set.
Yeah, but let it be known that Mackenzie and Jeff did not start Amazon until he got married.
Okay.
So there's that share.
So whether or not they had a prenup,
Yeah.
because Actually, I have a really good question for you.
Yeah.
So if we signed a prenup and said, a prenup is based off of my wealth, my current wealth now, right?
Yes.
So like Jeff didn't sign one, probably was worth like, I don't know, let's even say 2 million shillings, like you said before. They get if they had a prenup, they agreed on that.
Yes.
They get married. He starts Amazon. He's now worth billions of dollars. How does the prenup come into play then? Because it was based off of a lot less.
Right.
Yeah.
Good question. Like you had asked me previously, can the prenup be amended?
Okay.
Well, if you had signed it before, you see, he didn't know that there's all this wealth that was going on. Mackenzie Bezos, the wife to Jeff, probably contributed so much to his, wealth accumulation.
I agree.
So remember, it's an agreement.
Yeah.
So he's not going to make up a prenup on his own and then tell her to sign. It's something that we are agreeing on, that I brought this much, you brought this much, and as a result, we're billionaires. So let's draft an agreement stating that. So it's also good to mention that he got really wealthy after he got married to her.
You better say that. Okay, Mercy.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got to take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about writing a will. So we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back, everybody. We're at Park Inn by Radisson, and today we've got a lawyer in the building, or actually on the terrace, and we're asking her all the questions that we've ever thought of. At some point, we'll even get to some of the questions that you guys asked on our Instagram page. But for this next segment, we are going to touch on wills, right? Which is something that not many people talk about. General thoughts on wills and what the community, the African culture thinks about wills.
Yeah, the African culture thinks it's a prediction of doom.
Yeah.
That if I talk about wills, then maybe I'm speaking death to myself.
But also you are going to, we're all going to die at some point.
You're going to die. I'm going to die.
Yeah.
It's scary, but we're going to die.
We are, whether we like it or not, whether we're the best people on earth or not.
In fact, I think if you're the best, you're going to die. That happens to good people a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then also to not have a will in place just feels very risky.
It's dangerous.
Yeah,
Let's say it as it is.
Look at that.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous to not have a will.
It's dangerous,
when should someone consider writing a will, Mercy?
So you should consider writing a will at the age of majority, which is basically 18.
Okay.
So when you're 18 years old, you are eligible to write your own will. And of course, as long as you have property, and some people think, oh, I don't have physical property, but you have a social media account.
What?
That could be property. Yes.
Wait, social media accounts could be like in your will?
Absolutely.
But and then who's gonna so explain that to me. So you
Okay.
Yeah.
So good. We have in this era of digital. It's a digital era, right?
Yeah.
We have social media accounts. We have bank accounts that, of course, are online, and you have your credentials. You have your website, right? That's an online credential. And sometimes people die and think that that's not something worth leaving.
Yeah.
Your credentials to.
Yeah.
So you die thinking, oh, I didn't have a car, I didn't have money, so I'm not leaving anything. But you did have property. Your social media account is yours. Your online banking credentials are yours. So consider leaving them to people, because why? They might need information. They may need to close down the accounts. Have you seen accounts running and this person died? So you're wondering what's really happening. That's your property.
So what goes into a will?
What goes into your will is you have to know the property that you have.
Okay.
You have to list down your property. You have to list down your liabilities. What are your debts and how are they going to be paid? So it's not just about the nice things that I have.
What? Okay.
Yeah, you have to list down your debts as at the time of writing the will. And remember, you can still change if you pay your debts before you die. You can still go amending your will.
Okay.
You can also in your will include the beneficiaries. Don't forget to include the beneficiaries.
Okay.
So those are some of the most important things that go into.
That's so interesting, because now what I'm thinking is like, what if I didn't like you, Mercy? And I was
Okay.
like, all my debts are going to be paid off by Mercy Wanza.
Okay, so that's going to be invalid.
Well, okay, so how so?
That's going to be invalid because if I didn't owe you, then
okay.
yeah, then I become quite irrelevant in your will.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with any other person. This has everything to do with you. It's I own this much, or this other person owes me, so this is how my property will be distributed. This is how my debts are going to be paid.
Okay.
So it's not a matter of I didn't like her, so I'm going to write her in my will. It's
Yeah.
going to be disqualified completely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So what are some of the general mistakes people make when it comes to putting together a will?
Right, good question. One is that people don't write a will at all. That's
number
mistake
one.
number
And you
one.
said it's dangerous. You heard it
Oh,
from
my
like a
goodness.
lawyer. It is dangerous to not have a will.
Absolutely.
Actually, why is it dangerous?
It's dangerous because, one, you are leaving people to chance and figuring out how they're going to distribute your property. And we have seen many people dying as a result of the distribution of property and the quarrels that come with it. And the other danger is this. They might actually go to court to sort of, because the law provides for how it's going to be distributed. Should you die intestate? Intestate is that you have died without writing a will. The problem is it might go to court, but it will drag on for such a long time. I have witnessed in court some property having been disbursed after 15 years. So the kids are all grown. Whatever was meant to be them is just, it's really wasted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I get it. That's why it's dangerous. So mistakes that people make, you said number one is not writing a will.
That's mistake number one.
Okay.
Mistake number two is leaving out beneficiaries. For example, a man has a girlfriend and you decide, I love my girlfriend so much, I'm going to leave all my property to her and not provide for the kids. Well, that's going to be null and void because the kids have to be provided for. So,
Oh, really?
absolutely.
Oh, okay. So,
Absolutely.
So, but what about the wife?
Good question. Any former wife, any current wife, as long as she depended on you, shall be provided for as a dependent.
Like it or not?
Absolutely.
Because I've also, heard of, stories where someone has passed away and it's only then that a second family
Yes.
comes out of nowhere and they didn't know about it. And I've always wondered, so then what happens in that case?
Best believe they're going to be provided for as
Best-
dependents.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And you know what? If he was, it's sad that, God forbid,
Yes.
he was dogging around. But if he was,
If
then
he
it's only
was,
it's
he's
only
gonna
fair.
pay
Like
for
your
it.
other children, he's going to
quite
pay.
literally.
Yeah, he's going to pay for
Quite
it.
literally.
So you've mentioned a couple of times or instances where a will is ineffective.
Yes.
One, if I'm being cheeky and I say that you should pay off my debts.
Yes.
Two, you said also if children are not
Provided
for.
Yeah.
Are there other instances in which a will can be contested?
Let me tackle invalid first.
Okay.
Remember, if you also do not sign at the bottom of your will, you'd write so nicely and then forget to append your signature,
Yeah.
then that will sort of becomes invalid. However,
Yeah.
some things can be looked at by the court and say,
Okay.
okay, so part of the will is invalid, part of it is valid.
Okay.
Right? So for it to be contested, like I mentioned, if you failed to list some beneficiaries, then that will definitely be contested.
Okay.
If you failed to account for some property, full disclosure is always important with your lawyer. So it might also be contested. Yeah.
So I can't remember what show I was watching, but it was essentially, there was an old man.
Yeah.
He was in his last years. He had a lot of wealth, and his caregiver, for some reason, was the only person in the will.
Great.
Is that a space in which it can also be contested if someone was vulnerable for whatever reason?
So the caregiver could be provided for. Of course, remember, a will is basically you saying how you want your property to be distributed. So
Yeah.
you can give it to anybody.
Yeah.
But you have to, the dependents, your children, your wives, have to be included in that. So if they are not provided for, then that sort of invalidates
void.
your will. But if none can be found, then the property can definitely move to the caregiver.
And do the percentages matter? Because what if, for some reason, the caregiver got 90% and 10% was for the mother and, yeah.
That's going to be contested because
okay.
So you giving 90% to the caregiver and 10% to the children, because remember, the courts are always going to look at the best interest of a child. They supersede anybody else's
Okay.
interest. So if the children are catered for and they're well catered for, remember, we're talking about 10% of what? You could be a billionaire, so 10% could be a lot of money.
Yeah.
So as long as they are well provided for and adequately provided for, then
Right.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And children is under 18.
Yes. No, children, a child is a child.
Oh, so it could be even 30?
A child is a child.
Okay, so it doesn't
You inherit
matter.
as a child. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. I'm really, really good for the kids, for the children.
Yes.
Thankfully.
Even for
And
you with your parents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, and that too. But
Yeah.
and especially since like I've also watched other movies where people sort of cozy up to someone who's in the last phase of their life, and they know they're wealthy, so they're trying to get as much from them as possible.
Or
And it
married
just,
to
yeah, or
them.
married, yeah, last
Yeah.
minute, and it just always feels unfair.
Yeah.
So Mercy, can I at any point in time write my own will and it be valid? Or do I need a lawyer and other people involved?
That's a very good question, and many people ask that. You can write your own will. You don't have to have a lawyer to help you write your will.
Oh, so right now I can like get this piece of paper
Yeah.
and start writing down everything that I own,
Yes.
everything that I owe, for instance, as well,
Yes.
and my beneficiaries.
So let me say two things first.
Yeah.
A will just doesn't have to be written. You can say it orally. Yes, you can say your will orally, but there has to be in the presence of two witnesses, of course, who are competent.
Okay.
However, in oral, you have to die within 3 months of making the will. Of course, because
Now I see why it starts getting grave and people are like, what are we talking about now?
yeah. So because of course, if it's long term, then some things might be changed and
Right.
you might acquire more
Perspective,
property.
yeah.
So 3 months. But if it's written, you can write it even on an eggshell. You can even write it on a paper. You can write it on stone. As long as the material and the wordings can be read,
Yeah.
that's a valid will.
Wow.
However,
Yeah.
a disclaimer, if you have property, it's always good to involve a lawyer. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an advocate, but it's always good because you might not know how to disburse some property.
Right.
Some advice only a lawyer can give you.
Yeah.
So involve your lawyer.
Yeah.
You might end up saving yourself a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for a long time, women were often left out of inheritance, right? I guess that's just how it was
Yeah.
traditionally.
Yeah.
But things have changed quite a bit now. So going back to the conversation about children, can someone still, I guess, with that kind of mindset that, women get married off, so we shouldn't leave anything to them, can a parent leave out one of their children just because they're female and it's valid in the will if they have a couple of children and one girl and it's like, you see, I gave it to those kids?
Absolutely not.
So it's not valid.
Absolutely
Did it
not.
used to be at some point?
Yes, of course, because you see, pre-colonial,
Yeah.
we had, of course, men are the ones who were entitled to own property. And of course, if you own property, then you're in charge of how you distribute your property.
Yeah.
So women were domesticated. They were at home and do nothing really. So property wasn't entitled to them. But also in the cultural sphere, we still see that post-colonial, women, of course, were given their rights. And the law of the land supersedes cultural law. But we still do see women and the girl child being discriminated and told, oh, let your brothers have the property.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely you will contest as a child. Oh, definitely.
So it doesn't matter whether it was literally your parents' last dying wish that this can only go to the sons. You can be like, no, we're taking this to court.
Absolutely not. You'll go to court. Because you are as much as a dependent, as a child, as your brother. So you being a girl child,
Go girls.
Yes.
Go girls.
Go girls.
So what happens if one of the beneficiaries is a minor?
So you can leave property to a minor, which is still valid under the law.
Okay.
It's okay to do that.
Yeah.
However, because a minor cannot really direct how a property should be or cannot be a director of a company, say if you leave them a company, you can, it's possible, or make them partner of your company. Because they're still minors, they won't be able to be legal representatives of that. However, once they attain the age of majority, then they can be able to disburse their legal mandates. You can leave that to, say, for example, someone who can be in charge of them.
A guardian of sorts.
A guardian,
Yeah.
that's the word, a
Yeah.
guardian, in the time being before they get to the age of 18.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that it's taken and someone could start using or take.
No, it belongs to them.
It
So you
bel-
just simply put a guardian in charge of that property. You can leave property to your child.
To your child.
Yes.
Okay. I guess I'd also then love to hear from you if you have any examples of times where wills came into play and were really important, just in case someone is still like, I still don't get why I should write a will. I'm just like, it's like I'm trying to bring this energy into my space and I don't want to think about it. But can you give a good example of when it really helped?
So of course, there's very many examples of why it's important to have a will. I think we have seen even on TV during the news time where people didn't have, wills and that just going left, and you see the kind of dramas that we get to see. That could be avoided. We've also seen very good instances of where there was perpetual succession of the property and the lives of people continue really well. Remember, there's also what we call a trust. So you can also leave that to your children. So with the examples, I think the bad ones outweigh the good examples. Without mentioning names, I think leave a will. Just leave a will.
Okay.
Write a will.
Yeah. Last question.
Yeah.
Can a will also have conditions? Can I say, dear husband, I will leave you all my millions of shillings if you never marry again?
Oh, no.
Okay. If you do not speak to that girl that I didn't like that time, then
Lord,
you're speaking to.
Oh, no. Because, you see, a marriage is invalidated as soon as one spouse dies.
Okay, so what if it's children? What if I didn't like your boyfriend and I say, hey, honey, you can have all my billions of shillings if you do not marry Jeff?
That would be infringing on your own child's rights to make their own decisions.
Okay.
So I can contest. And anyway, that's why it's good to go to a lawyer, because a lawyer will tell you, please not write that.
Yeah.
I think it's also very important to mention this. Any will that was written before marriage is invalidated after marriage. So if you had a will right now, or if I had, let me use my example because I'm not married. I write a will right now. As soon as I get married, then my will is revoked by marriage.
Okay.
So I have to write another will in marriage.
And then if you get children, your will is
I go adding.
Is revoked as well?
No,
I
simply go adding.
Okay.
However, if I'm contemplating to marry someone and I write a will in contemplation of marriage, because knowing that I'm going to marry this person, then that will still hold because I thought about getting married to this person.
So, and also we've talked a lot about men possibly leaving out their wives.
Yes.
But can a wife leave out a man in, so even the reverse?
Oh, the reverse works.
Okay.
I know we talk a lot about men and women and men leaving, but we've seen instances where wives have left their spouses. You're just as much a spouse, whether you're a husband or a wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, we've got to take a break, but we'll be back in a moment. Do not go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. Today's show has been so enlightening, right? Like I can't believe, I've been so wowed by all the information that Mercy has been giving us. We've been talking a lot about, the law when it comes to prenups earlier, and then last part we were talking about the will. And I have one more question before we move into the conversation, the questions that we got from social media.
Right.
And it's to do with the will.
Okay.
What happens if someone isn't married, but they have been living together and have children together? Can you still leave that person out of your will if they do not have the title wife or husband?
Okay, so if they do not have the title of wife or husband, then they can simply claim that they were dependent. So they can't claim as a wife, they can't claim as a husband, or that is a spouse.
Yeah.
But they can definitely claim as a dependent if they can prove dependency, right?
Okay.
But for the children...
And by that you mean if I didn't have a job, or...
Were you taking care of them?
Were you okay.
In any type of way. Were you paying their fees? And they can come with receipts to court. Some evidence that they were indeed dependents on you. But for the children, that goes without saying, they're provided for.
Interesting. So we have a lot of questions that we got in, and a lot of them also had to do with marriages, divorce and stuff. But before we even get into that, there's this one question that we got, which is, my friend was being threatened by his landlord with eviction for not paying rent for 1 month. Is that okay?
That's illegal.
Illegal?
Oh my goodness, that is completely illegal, and it's one mistake. If you're a landlord and you have a tenant, the best thing for you to do is serve your tenant a 30-day notice in writing. telling them, for example, if she had not paid rent, then you can put it in writing that you need to pay rent. So once they receive, when they're in receipt of that notice, then quite so you can be removed legally. However, if you go and padlock the house without notice and you simply padlock it, that can land you in jail. And not only that, that you forfeit your right to receive rent from that day that you put the padlock on. So you face jail time. You can easily face jail time for that. It's illegal.
So let's get into divorce, which is a big conversation, and a lot of people are curious about it because it's happening more and more these days. So first question we have here is, how long does it take to get a divorce in Kenya?
So once you have applied for divorce, that's completely now out of your hands, because I can't tell, or you can't tell how long that will take. However, the court will grant you an absolute notice of divorce within a period of mostly up to 12 months. But what I have seen in previous instances is where the court gives you that separation bit period of like 6 months, telling you, listen, you can go think about it, or, just see if there are other ways you can go through this. The court is not quick to jump at, yes, take it, divorce right now.
So that means if someone today decided that they wanted a divorce and they went and filed tomorrow, it could take as little as 6 months? Because I thought I heard it was like there's a longer time frame.
No, not 6 months to divorce, 6 months to separate. Then the divorce process could take well over 1 year, which is 12 months. Yes. So it's completely really out of the hands of the parties involved.
Okay. So traffic offenses.
Yes.
Oh, it's something that I mean, as great as you are as a driver, if you do drive, you might just find yourself on the wrong side of the law. And sometimes it's not even because you, I don't know, skipped a light or took a wrong turn. It's because, I don't know, I've heard of people being stopped because their tires didn't look okay, and yet their tires are less than 6 months old. I have so many questions about this. First things first, what do you have a right to ask for or to do if you have been stopped?
Okay, so you have a right to know who is stopping you, because anyone can masquerade as a police officer. So the police officer needs to identify themselves.
And how do they do that? By saying their name and their...
The badge number.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the big
So I can get to ask...
details.
What's your name and what's your...
Absolutely. What's your registration number? Basically, they have a way of identifying themselves.
Okay.
And I'm sure you've also seen it in the movies.
Yeah, badge number. Badge number.
Yes.
But sometimes you're not sure if that works here or if it's just there.
Well, I think sometimes it's the practice. They don't really... We won't see police officers saying, hi, my name is Officer Mercy Wanza and I...
Where am I done? Where?
Jina Languni. It's just... Smama. But they are supposed to actually identify themselves. And also they're supposed to read. You have a right to know what offense have you committed, because sometimes you find that they just tell you, nifuate. What have I done? So it's your right to know. Of course, you're going to ask it in a very, in a good way.
Respectful way.
Asking a respectful way, because it's the person in authority. But at the same time, they need to tell you the kind of offense that you have committed. Yes. And also, the other right that you have is, they should not enter into your car. There's no way that's provided in the law for police officers to enter into your car. But once they tell you, follow me to the police station, or they're supposed to actually document your offense and tell you to follow them to the police station, please do so.
Okay. Can they take your driver's license?
Well, that is... almost a yes and a no. Because at that point, they should not withhold it. As soon as you present yourself, you're supposed to receive it. Because you see, they hold it as lien. It's, if you don't come with me, then I have your document. But as soon as you comply with the law, there's no need of them holding your driver's license.
And that means, as soon as I get to the police station,
they should actually give it back.
Right. Okay. So I can't demand for it, like, no, give me my license back. Otherwise, I'm not going to a police
But the
station.
legality of it is still here and there, because if you do follow the law, then I don't see why they should take your documents or they should withhold. They should just see it. Of course, when they ask for it, they need to read it. Right.
If this is aside from, maybe even the traffic offense escalated, maybe you punched them and it just got heated, so then you're going to be put into a cell.
Yes.
Which is the right term, right?
Yes.
So
to be remanded,
so in that case, do you get a phone call?
Yes, of course you're entitled to call.
Okay.
But should it get into an altercation, then that becomes a completely different charge from a traffic offense that now becomes... They could charge you either with refusing to, be arrested, obstruction of an offense, obstruction of arrest, but it could escalate into other charges that you go beyond traffic offense. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to buying land?
Oh, that's a good one. The first thing is that people do not do their searches. Go to the Ministry of Lands. As soon as you want to buy property, go to the Ministry of Lands. It's a public office. It's open for everyone. Go and do your own search to establish the true ownership of the land. Are there third parties in it? Does that land have encumbrances or charges? Has someone taken a loan with that land? So that you don't buy land that someone has actually taken a loan with it. So the second part is people make a mistake of not going to the local county offices to check are there rates to that land and have they been paid, because the previous owner, the one who holds the title to that land, should pay before selling it to you. The other thing is that people don't engage a surveyor, who go straight to the land to sort of look at the bearings and the marks, know your neighbors, get a map.
Yeah.
People don't do that a lot.
Okay.
People just buy land. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And
I guess
also,
it's the excitement or I don't know.
And also they don't engage a lawyer.
So mistake number one,
That is mistake number A, because failing to engage a lawyer, you see, a lawyer does all these processes for you. They register for you. They do the searches for you. So why don't you save yourself all this time and engage a lawyer?
Right, and headache.
Yeah.
So this is a good one. What is the period that pension funds held by government bodies ought to be released to the beneficiaries of a deceased person?
So as soon as the application is made, see, there's a probate and succession period and all these things. So as soon as the execution starts, and execution here being the disbursement of the property, then they should be able to pay the pension. But should I mention that a pension is completely separate from inheritance? A pension is by way of nomination. So you can easily leave your spouse out, you can easily leave your child out, and nominate a friend, because it's by way of nomination.
Well, and why is pension different from all these other things in your inheritance or in your will, land?
Well, I guess it's looked at as more of insurance, because you see they put their next of kin, but it's by way of nomination. It's not an inherited sort of thing. But it does leave, for example, if I'm a child and I feel I should have probably inherited that pension, you can easily go and contest, but just know that the person who was actually nominating is well within their right to nominate any person that they like.
So, Mercy, from Wakili Mkononi, what would you say are some of the, let's say, the top 3 questions that you get the most from your audience?
So number 1 has to be traffic offense.
Oh, really?
Oh my goodness, Kenyans are afraid of the police, and they want to know, what do I do when I am caught by the cops? So that has to be one. The second one has to do with land, obviously, because we are Kenyans and land matters are very dear to our hearts. So people really want to know what happens. And the third one is actually what we've talked about. In fact, we've talked about everything, which has to do with land and tenancy. What do I do in case that happens? Am I entitled to, should my landlord padlock my house? What should I do? So people want to know those 3 things.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about Wakili Mkononi and what you guys are intending to do, what your vision for that space is.
Wakili Mkononi seems to be a baby that grew up too fast. So we were, sort of like bottle feeding, and then now she's asking for solid food. And so Wakili Mkononi basically is a bridge. We act as a bridge between justice seekers who are the common Mwananchi like me, and people who provide the law, for example, lawyers, arbitrators, and mediators. So we say you can call us and we can link both of you.
Right.
So it sort of works like Uber, where you need a driver and I link you up with a driver.
Yeah.
So you come to our website, which is www.wakilimkononi.co.ke, and you're able to put your issue, whether it's divorce, land. So we give you a drop down.
Okay.
Your geolocation, are you Nakuru, are you Nairobi, Kisumu?
Yeah.
So you put that, and then we connect you to the best lawyer. And all our lawyers are profiled.
Yeah.
So we are able to tell you who is best at what, and you're able to choose for yourself and rate them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We also provide legal information. How do we do this? By having short simulations of a legal matter, for example. So when you're talking about land or eviction by a landlord, you'll see a short skit saying that, so that people can be able to relate.
Understand.
And it's done in both Swahili and English for easy relation.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's your dream for?
Wow,
for
our dream is
this,
huge.
yeah.
It's a bit scary because we want to be the premium legal providers where you come to us and we connect you instantly with the lawyer. See, we want to demystify when people say, oh, I have my own lawyer.
Yeah.
People think that justice are preserved for the rich. Our goal is to have justice reach the Mama Mboga, the one who is there, that her matters are well provided for and taken care of.
Yeah.
And also we're trying to make it very, very affordable. So we're coming up with our Wakili cover where you're able to pay either annually, just like insurance.
Yeah.
You pay annually and you forget about it. So anytime you're in runnings with the law, you call us and we hook you up without thinking of payment, because you're going to pay at the end of the year. Yeah.
Mercy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I feel like after this, we're probably going to be bombarded with a lot more questions. So we
Yes.
might have to ask you to come over again.
Okay, I'd be happy to be here.
And we wish you all the best with Wakili too.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So if you have any questions, anything that you've been curious about when it comes to the law, seriously, hit us up on Living with S on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Or you can also just go and then check out Wakilim Kononi, because of course they've got like all sorts of videos and information that you never know when you might need it. Thank you for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed and learned from this show as much as I did. Thank you to Park In by Radisson as usual. See you tomorrow. Bye.